Do you ever ask yourself, how is spirituality and sexuality connected? How can you have more spiritually inclined sexuality? Doesn't even matter. Let's get into it. I have some really great tips as to how you can create the most spiritual situation for your sexuality and why that's worth your time and effort. Because if you don't, you may in fact destroy your life. So let's get into it. Welcome back. My name is Andrew Love, and it is my job as the founder of Whole Goals to help you reclaim freedom in your mind, heart, body, and soul so that you can create harmony, the likes of which will allow you to do whatever you want because you will be supercharged like a superhero, be able to do anything. That seemed like a very lofty claim, but I'm going to stick to it. In this video, I really want to get this point across because I have helped so many different people and I've been a part of creating the infrastructure to allow men and women heal from sexual traumas, from difficult habits or addictions that they have in the area of sexuality. And so much of it is because we have a misconception of what sexuality is and how to function with it. Some people are like, whoa, do whatever you want, whenever you want, and that leads to hell. That leads I'm not like you go to hell and burn, I mean like creates hell on earth. Okay, you want to put that at scale, then anybody can do to you whatever they want because they feel like it. And if you think that's far off from the truth, go anywhere in the world and see that human trafficking is a thing. It's a real thing. It's a very big problem. We have a lot of problems that emanate from sex because people don't understand it. So I want to help save years of pain and suffering from you, from your human experience, and help you create the most magical, meaningful, and powerful sexual experience that you could ever imagine. Let's get into it. So here's the thing. This is where most people are at. This is their body, okay? This is their body. I know it doesn't look like the most fabulous body, but it's the representation of a body. And here's what happens, is they have a feeling. They have what they perceive to be a need, a feeling of, I need sex. And so the body becomes the most important thing to consider. And under that there's three things here. There's the mind, the heart, and the spirit. Now when the body is king or queen, when it is running the show, you have to understand that all of these are not being considered in that moment because it just becomes very much like tunnel vision, like I need this. Are you thinking when you're possessed by the desire for sex? Are you thinking clearly? No, you don't have access to your brain. It's essentially like fight or flight, but survival. Like it's a survival instinct to create new life. And so when your body's possessed by this desire, it is not consulting your mind. You're not thinking logistically, you're not thinking practically, you're not thinking about your future. That's why so many people get tripped up. You have all these people who end up celebrities or presidents of the United States of America in the 90s who they can control the entire world. They can delegate and they can say, oh, they can give great speeches, but they get possessed because they don't understand this. They get completely possessed and then they can't even think, oh, is this bad for my career to have sex in the Oval Office? Their heart. How does my wife feel about this? Hey, Hillary, right? No question. Spirit, we'll get into that a bit. This can be dicey, so I'm going to try to make it as practical as possible, the spiritual aspect. But think about it this way. This is how most people live their life. When they are horny, when they want sex, they do not think, is this something that I should be participating in right now? Is this a good thing for me? It's just you get swept up in the feeling of it. And when you go with it, you're not thinking, okay? Mind off. Sex on, you turned on, brain off. Heart. Again, what happens here is especially in this world when we have pornography at our fingertips, you are not in a state where you are even remotely considering the heart of the other people in the videos that you're watching. And in many cases, like, there's so many transactional sex where it's just all body and no heart. This is a disaster for anybody who wants stable love in their life, because you're just feeding the body and you're not feeding the long-term meaningful heart. I'm not talking about the emotional heart. I'm talking about the heart that when you're a baby, if you don't get love from your mom, you physically die. They've tested this out for long enough. They've done so many gruesome experiments where they see you can feed a little baby all the food it needs. It can be warm and given shelter, but if it's not given love and connection, it gets definitely at least emotional problems, a lot of times mental problems, even physical problems, and sometimes death occurs because love is that important. What I'm talking about is support, connection, intimacy. These things are the real love, the long-term love. Like the ocean, there's like the emotions are just the waves on top, but the current underneath, that's the real love that I'm talking about. And this heart is not being consulted or connected or filled up to any degree when it's just body focused. Okay, and then spirituality. Your spirit is, in this context, you can go many different directions with spirituality. I don't want to get lost in this. So the most practical explanation that I'm talking about is, if your mind wants to do something, great. That doesn't make you do something. If your heart, if you're feeling emotional and you want to do something, let's use fitness as an example. If your mind wants to get fit, and then you listen to some motivational speech and you're like, and you get fired up and you get really pumped up and you're like, I think I can do it. The thing that pushes you to do that thing, it's not your mind. It's not like the I'm gonna do it. There's something that has to push your body into action. And for the sake of argument, that's what I'm calling the spirit today. And in terms of sexuality, your spirit is the desire to give, to not take. And in sex, in the way that we learn about it from the modern world, from media, from porn, it's all about taking, me, which makes for a very weak spirit. You become a very needy person, not a giving person, not the kind of person that is benevolent, but instead malevolent, because you're needy, and you'll actually sacrifice others' pleasure for your own pleasure. That's what porn is. It's like, do I care about what happens for those people's in their life to give me pleasure? No, not when I'm watching. That's what I'm saying. So in the body, this is when you're watching porn. This is when you're like really horny at night. You're not thinking about, is this a good plan for me when I'm going out in the club and I'm looking for some action, You're not thinking about somebody's heart. Like, I'm talking about like them in 5 years. You just want something from them. You don't care about their emotional state, where they came from, what they're going through right now, where they're going to be in the future. And spiritually, you don't give a crap about serving them and loving them and giving them the best life. You just want to feed your body. So let me erase this, and I'm going to show you the opposite of the best way to create the best possible outcome for sexuality. All right, I'm back with a blank board. And now, this is what I'm talking about. If you want sustainable, spiritually focused sexuality that gives you dividends, meaning that your sex gives you and helps you become more of who you want to be, instead of like a losing transaction or like a neutral transaction. If you want your sexuality to feed your goals and to allow you to live the life that you would like to live as a loving, giving person, as somebody who's connected to source, who's connected to great ideas, who doesn't get super depressed and super lonely and super isolated. If you want to stay connected to your power, then this is how you do it. You inverse it, okay? So you have the mind, you have the heart, and you have the spirit up here. And this is times 2. There's one person here, one person here, one person here. So when you have two people who are first connected in mind, meaning they are in agreement about what it is that they're doing, why they're doing it, clear, sober-minded, you've thought about this is congruent with your goals and your hopes and your dreams. Like for me, I'm married, and ideally you are, if you're watching this, or you would like to be in a long-term healthy relationship. In order for a healthy sexual transaction to take place between my wife and I, We both have to be in sound mind. We both have to be in a good state of mind. If she's feeling super depressed or if I'm feeling super depressed, then it wouldn't make a lot of sense for us to just get straight to body. Body's down here. Body's way down here. And true, real, meaningful sexuality, body is always at the bottom. It's the least important part of sexuality, actually. This is the crazy thing that they don't teach you, is that the focus is always on the body. In normal society, we focus on how women look. Like as men, we're always looking at images of women and how they're dressed and all this stuff. It's meaningless. If you're having soulless sex, if you're having mindless sex, heartless sex, forget about the body. You're going down a losing trail. It's only gonna bring pain and misery. But if you go this order, you will be building. Sexuality becomes not an event, it becomes a string of a continuum, your sexual continuum over a lifetime. So my wife and I, our sex is only getting better and better, and I hang out with people who are in their mid-60s and they're having the best sex of their life because it's graduating to constantly higher and higher levels. So first we have to be in agreement of where we're at and that we're both in a great place and that we both want to, because your mind, as they say, is the greatest, most powerful sexual organ that you have, because your mind has to be in it in order to put your mind on that person, that your focus is there. When you're addicted to porn or whatever, you don't have a mind to give. Your mind is all over the place. You're thinking about all this other stuff. But to just be there with somebody and put your focus, your attention on them, that's the first step. Second is your heart, that you have two hearts that are not only open in that moment, but that are connected for the long term. This creates the most meaningful, magnetic, majestic sexuality that you can imagine, because you're coming on the foundation, you're bringing each other's love on the foundation of a history of being there for each other. If you saw the video about the sexual Sahara Desert, about the postpartum sex, that's what I'm talking about, is that when you have a history of being there for each other, you have better sex. They've done a number of studies that shows that people who are in long-term, healthy, committed relationships, their sex is better than any one-night stand, because that's just focused on ego. It's focused on the body, it's focused on all these peripheral things, but the meaningful stuff, the stuff that we live for, that our soul longs for, is connection, intimacy, trust, and all these things that take time. So when you have two hearts who are deeply committed to each other, that's power, because you can just be wide open-hearted in the moment. And that also means that even if you have a tradition of taking care of each other, if you're in the middle of a fight, it's hard to be open-hearted. So there's like the momentary open-hearted, which means that you're taking care of each other now, but it's also like the long-term continuum of love, which is we've got this tradition of loving each other. That creates this supernova of connection and intimacy during. So first mind, your mind's on each other, attention, your heart is in the moment, but also long-term, and spirituality, that you train yourself to not be a taker, that you train yourself to be a giver. A true lover is a giver, is somebody who's a servant to the other person. And we usually have like a negative connotation, but I mean somebody who's willing to forego their immediate needs in order to satisfy the needs of another person. When you have two people in a relationship who are both inclined towards giving, that creates this crazy synergy, this synergistic power where you're kind of competing in a sense to give more and more and more and more of yourself to the other person till there's nothing left to give. That's beautiful. That's like two people emptying each other out, of just kind of depleted, because like, I gave you everything, and then the other person's like, I gave you everything, and then you leave it like you see an athlete who puts it all on the court. They leave it all out there. They give 100%. That's something beautiful to behold. When you're in a real beautiful relationship with somebody, it means that you're leaving it all. You're giving them the best of yourself. And that's all transmuted through the body. Your body is just a vessel. That's the crazy part. In society, we focus on the body, but it's just a vessel. It's just a vehicle. It's just something to give your love and your attention and your energy. And you just basically, in sex is just plugging energy in, right? It's just like, a connecting point. But in reality, that's the least important aspect, like the physical aspect. And what I've realized is that the more that you focus on this takes care of itself. You don't have to worry about this. It's neither here nor there. This is fine it doesn't matter, because again, I know some older people who are not so flexible that are having the best sex of their life, and it's because they've spent years investing into this stuff. And this takes care of itself, okay? So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, always please feel free to ask me. If you want to be a troll, then please flush yourself down the virtual toilet, because I don't have time for that stuff. But if you have some sincere questions, I'd love to help. Leave comments below. Subscribe if you want to hear more. Just reach out to me. Let me know. I can help you get through a lot of, different nuanced conversations so that it can make sense to you, so that you can create a thriving in your life. It's been a pleasure. This shirt is ridiculous, but I'm happy to offer it to you as some sort of visual stimulation during all this. And I will see you in the next video.